How the heck are you, everybody? I am Fastidious. Welcome to my channel. A big and friendly welcome to our guest today, Mr. JGigs, who I invited on because I hadn't seen you in a while. I just popped into your stream scene there, so I did want to reconnect a bit. If you guys don't know, JGigs was a great creator in Watcher Realms, but actually left several months ago. I'm sure we'll go pretty deep into that. But you are someone who I believe is uniquely knowledgeable and positioned in the gacha space where you've played so many games, you know so many things, and I thought this would be a good kind of moment, touchstone moment to check in on our slice of the gachaverse or these kind of RPGs, these mobile games, and really get your opinion. If you guys don't know, Watcher Realms just had a big update. People are pretty jazzed. A couple months ago, people were pretty not jazzed. Polarium was just sold, from what I gather from my comment section, which we'll get into, Mr. JGigs. People aren't jazzed over there. And then you're playing a brand new game, which you told me you love. So I think I've spoken enough. I want to just introduce you to everybody, and what are you thinking? What's going on? How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I appreciate it. It is good to reconnect. It's easy to just kind of get caught up in what you're doing and not interact with anybody for a while. So it's nice to hook up and have a chat.
Absolutely. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to pick your brain on, I guess if we had to make, or what the title of this video is going to be, it's like featuring you, but it's what makes these gacha games fail and succeed, what captures the player base's attention, what lets them be elated, what leads them to be disappointed. Because in the past 3 months in Watcher Realms, when we had some big updates, you probably don't know because you stopped playing the game, what, 5 months ago, 6 months ago, something like that?
It's hard to tell. I'm bad at that chronological stuff. It feels like it was 3 years ago, so I have no idea when I stopped playing.
I remember it being like sometime at the beginning of the summer before the anniversary, because I was going to send you a message being like, wait, the anniversary is going to be good, but I didn't. But that's in my mind, it was beginning of the summer. The point is, we had some big turmoil in the game because ByteDance owns Moonton, who is the developer. ByteDance also owns TikTok. Believe it or not, I think they care more about TikTok than Moonton and Watcher Realms. But because of that, who knows why? I'll never understand. But Apple and ByteDance were butting heads a lot over like music royalties and permissions and this and this. And one thing Apple did was they were blocking updates of games. So it was looking pretty dire in Watcher Realms. You could see the views going down. I could see less players online when I was playing. It wasn't, flatlining, but it wasn't good. So I really got to see that. The angst, the negativity, like the low swing. And now we had all that stuff that was delayed has just arrived over the past couple days. Things are very positive, and people, this is what made me reach out to you. If people don't know, if viewers don't know, JGigs also, I think to this day, you still daily play Raid Shadow Legends, and you're one of the big creators over there. I've been inundated with comments akin to like Raid could never. And people are taking this positive moment for our game and taking a lot of jabs at one of your games, which is why I wanted you, because you know a lot of games. So I was wondering if, you could speak to what you think makes a player base react like that when people, I know a lot of people think players can be entitled or feel like they're owed something, are too easily happy, too easily disappointed. What do you think leads to these successes and flops and this, that, and the other, and the rage and outrage in the community?
Yeah, I think out of the gate, it's worth mentioning as a developer, you've got a pretty impossible task because there's not one single thing you could do that makes everybody happy. It could be everybody gets a free Sacred Shard in Raid, or there will be people upset because I just bought a Sacred Shard. Why are you giving them away for free? How come someone got a Sacred Shard? You know what I mean? They can make the graphics better, and somebody go, well, I like the older graphics. Like, there's nothing you could do. So you've got a tall order of making everybody happy, but there's a difference in that crowd that's just never going to be pleased with any given decision, and then the sort of relationship. And I think Raid is a good game to talk about in this conversation because they're like almost hyperbolic in how bad their relationship is with their players. They're so dishonest and so manipulative and so blatantly in your face about like, we just want your money. That's really all we want. So I think for me, I guess I can't speak for what everybody else wants, but I look for genuine effort. I don't necessarily even have to like a decision that you've made. If I believe that you're doing what you think is best for the game, then I have a lot of patience for that. It's when I feel like a developer is moved away from that I lose that like optimism or that willingness to be loyal, for lack of a better word, to them. I don't dig that at all. So I think I would assume that's a fairly similar sentiment people share, is like, as long as it looks like you're trying for real, as long as we believe you're trying, we can deal with the period where things are getting better, a little bit better, you know what I mean?
So you would say, as a baseline, like, good faith.
Yeah.
You want to see them making an honest effort. It's interesting because I think maybe that was part of the reason people were so frustrated with Watch of Realms, because at first it kind of felt like, what is this Apple App Store BS? You know, is that even legit? Turns out it really seems like it was, because the second they said it was approved, it was just like whoosh, like all these things that were on the docket, it did come through. So I think that did buy people the good faith. But I do think, everyone has their own expectations going into these games. You use the word loyal. We live in like the world in year of our Lord 2024 where it's all just a competition for everybody's eyeballs. So like, if we're going to be so generous as to lend a game our eyeballs, I think a lot of people feel like your loyalty should be rewarded, right? Especially with these mobile games where people pop from one to another. I think it's pretty interesting. It's pretty wild, and maybe this is a nice place to start because you're the only raid creator. I mean, I know many because I made content many years ago in raid in a very small way, not like you. I played the game for a couple of years. It's been many years now, but you're the only one I still follow. Part of the reason is because you're so brutally honest. I know a lot of people sometimes in your comments are saying like you're really negative and hating on the developers of the game, but I just take it as like you're just really like no holds barred, like very, if you see something you think is trash, you're going to call it out. And I've also seen you when it's positive, you call that out too. Do you want to kind of speak to that, how you approach being critical of these games and when you think it's worthy, if there's any time you're really proud of what you did or maybe something you regret? I know there's been moments where I feel like I'm holding their feet to the fire a bit and maybe I'm overstepping, but sometimes I'm like really happy I did because I see a positive result.
Yeah, I do just try to always say what I think, and it's another one of those situations where for some people you just can't win. If I'm negative about the game, people will show up and say I'm too negative. If I am not negative about something, then Plarium bought me and I'm a shill. So, you know what I mean? There was a little bit of drama recently. Everybody was upset with me because I wasn't upset with them about a change they made to Hydra. I thought, again, it was a change that I didn't like. I understood that it was going to be more difficult, but I believed, for whatever reason, that it was in a genuine attempt to make the game mode what they originally wanted it to be. And people didn't like that. So I'm not just negative for the sake of being negative. I'm not really a negative person. And I don't even feel like it's negative. I'm just observing what they're doing and saying what I think about it. And most of what they do tends to be negative. with Plarium.
Yeah.
I think
would you say that? You think nowadays, like you feel like you're just being straight up, but you think if you're being straight up the way things have been going recently, that means you're being negative? That's kind of what they're requiring from you, if you're being honest?
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of positive going on in Raid right now, and it seems to just be continuing. I talk a lot about a cycle Plarium has where it's like bad thing, then really good thing, so you forget about the bad stuff. And we've gone like 2 loops now of just bad things. So I'm thinking the good thing they must be cooking is really good because there's a lot to forget about now. But yeah, if you look at my coverage of all the other games I've ever played, I've very rarely been super critical. And I go into every new game fresh. I was very positive about Raid in the beginning too. It's only when they started pivoting their behavior that I started pivoting mine. So yeah, I just try to call it like I see it. And yeah. There's always going to be people skeptical of that, and there's not much I can do about it. So,
I bet you've had the experience to circle back really quickly when you were saying like you're too negative and then you're too nice and people call you a shill. I bet you've had videos where in the same comment section, someone is saying like, I'm a dick, I'm ruining the game, I'm so negative, and then why aren't you going harder at them, you shill, stop taking their money and be a real person. I'm like, you can't win.
Yeah, you really can't. As a content creator, once you come to terms with that,
yeah, for sure.
And you just do what you feel good about doing. You'll be much more at peace.
Absolutely. So you're saying recently in that game, and maybe to contrast it with Watch of Realms, since that's the majority of my audience, if not all of my audience, you feel like Raid is used to doing like a couple steps backwards and then a nice big step forward, couple steps backwards, a nice big step forward. But right now you're in this holding pattern where maybe not even holding pattern, like a deflating pattern. And you're waiting for that big step forward, but you don't know when it's coming.
Yeah, I feel like there's got to be some really cool collab or something big has to be coming because they've just been beating people down with negative changes.
Is that like copium, or is that like you're confident that that's on the horizon?
I'm not like optimistic about it. It's just the pattern I've noticed from them. So I'm not like, God, I could really use it. The game doesn't really affect me like that anymore. I think too also people think that I'm upset with him because I'm upset about my experience with the game, and I don't have that kind of experience with the game anymore. I'm usually upset on principle or for the sake of the player base. Yeah. They made one change recently that I'm annoyed about, but it's very minor. It interfered with my schedule.
That's something I wasn't planning to talk about this, but the very quick aside, I think one thing maybe we could communicate, this is somewhat selfishly, but maybe you'll agree with me and it will help my point. As content creators, very often, I think people think we're advocating for things because of what we desire from our gaming experience and like how we can make our account better. I promise you guys, and I think you will agree with me, you pretty quickly for me, but eventually you're gonna reach a point where you just only care about the health of the game. Like I would set my account on fire if it meant it would make the game marginally better, that kind of thing. And yeah, so if you see a big rant video, whether you agree with that person or not, very, very likely that person's doing it because they truly think what they're saying will help the whole community, not help their own account and get them another summoning shard or something like that.
Yeah, 100%. I don't approach it like that at all. It's got nothing to do with my experience. This game, while I enjoy it, is my job. So it's like, it's exciting when I get a good pull, and it's I still have all the similar experiences of someone who's not a content creator, but I'm so rarely advocating for me specifically.
Yeah.
Because if I want to stop playing it, if it gets so bad that I really want to stop playing it, I'll just go play something else. There's plenty of games to cover. I can change games and I'll be fine. I tend to do better on my second channel covering a new game than I'm doing on Raid currently. So if I just started covering 2 new games, it would probably be better for me anyway. I just enjoy the routine and the culture that sort of goes into what my Raid channel is right now. But yeah, like sometimes people think I'm lying about being free to play. And it's like, you don't even understand that spending money in Raid doesn't even enter my head. Yeah. Like if I can't finish a fusion, it doesn't even occur to me that I could spend money and finish it. Spending money in Raid doesn't exist to me anymore.
Yeah.
It's a different, I'm attached to this game in a different way than I think a lot of people think I would be as a content creator. So yeah, I think it's not about me.
Maybe it's not true for everybody, but I think for a lot of content creators, very quickly, it's like your experience with the game is like the whole game. It's not you playing the game, which is part of it, but it's really like how like your account and then all the other tens of thousands of accounts and the community and all the reactions, that's your experience of playing the game. It's not like, are you going to pull I'm trying to remember, a Duchess or something, right?
Right, yeah. If the game thrives, my channel will thrive. I want the game to be healthy. I don't need one good thing to happen in my account so I can make one good video. I need the game to be healthy so I can make lots of good videos. You know what I mean? So my account being special doesn't really do me a lot of good in that regard.
Yeah. It's also just a lot more fun when games are going good. Like it's all just like roses and nice. But you queued up the best transitions, so I don't want to let that slip away. You talked about your other channel, was it Gigs Mobile Gaming, right?
I think that's what it's called, yeah.
And like jumping game to game, and if you don't like a game, you'll just move on. This is probably the main reason I wanted to have you on, because you've jumped ship on many games and you pick up these new games and you find success with them. You just start a new game. So I do want to talk about that, but maybe we pick it up with Watcher Realms, since that is the majority of the audience. What was it that for you, because you did play for a while, you played for many months. What was it that pushed you to be like, all right, time to move on? And then if you want to zoom out, in general, have you noticed a pattern of what makes you move on from a game, as opposed to a game like Raid that is kind of like a pinnacle in this genre where you haven't moved on?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's at no fault of the game. I think when I left Watcher, I think is one of the ones I said was not fault of the game. And then like I just stopped playing Sword of Convaleria recently, at no fault to the game itself.
Oh, you stopped playing that one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some games, it's definitely at fault of the developer. Sometimes I'll get to a point where I feel like I'm having to force content, or or that I need to be able to give the game more time to justify making content for it. I could probably do a free to succeed type thing long term in Watcher of Realms, and it would be fine. But that's not really what I'm trying to do with every game I play. And I got to a point in Watcher of Realms where I couldn't justify any of the content I was making because I wasn't playing it enough to know really the game like someone like you would. So while you can continue to make in-game guides and do all this stuff that's going to be helpful, I was kind of out of stuff to talk about, and I wasn't playing it enough to know it well enough to teach anybody anything anymore. So my cycle with a lot of these games is like I'll play it when it comes out, and I'll play it for as long as I feel like I can make content that in some way is valuable. And then if I feel like I'm having to force it, so I'll move on. That's when it's at no fault of the game. There's another thing I talk about a lot where there seems to be something in like the 6 month to 9 month, sometimes 12 month window where like, I don't know if it's that the developers start making money and all their priorities seem to change and it becomes strictly about making money. It's like they start making all this money and freak out about it. And the game just goes downhill. Awakened Chaos Era felt like that. Infinite Magic Raid felt like that. I loved it too when it first came out. I thought it had so much potential, and they just only started dealing in legendaries. That is all they cared about, was legendaries and new content that required legendaries. Dragon Champions was another really old one that was really cool, and all of a sudden they dropped this big update that basically turned the game into Raid, and it was like people loved this game because it wasn't Raid. Now you're doing all the same stuff Raid's doing, and I don't know how it's doing anymore. But yeah, there's a few reasons that I move on. Sometimes it's the fault of the game, and sometimes it's just that I feel like I have nothing else to do in the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'd want to jump off of one of the things you said, but definitely in general, it's an interesting point that like to really, I mean, it depends what kind of content you want to make. But for a lot of these games, if you want to be successful, you kind of have to be like a broker of knowledge. And it can be, depending on the game, it can be a really major investment time-wise and energy-wise to, you know, obtain that knowledge. So like for me, it's always like this. Fortunately, I'm still very happy with Watcher of Realms. I was telling you right before we started, I just finished this really long stream doing like the best, but also the single worst piece of content added to the game, which is the newest and boss and campaign, chapter 1015. But moments like that, it's like so frustrating, and I want to like tear my head in half, but also it's like really fun because I like the puzzle.
Right.
So fortunately I have that, but also I do think if I wanted to put this amount of energy into a new game and like start from scratch and like not have any expertise or whatever people want to call it, it's pretty daunting because, you know, I'll make videos and I'm so proud of them, but they're never going to do as well as like an update is coming and people think I know the most about it, whether that's true or not, so they click on it. Like I could put hours into a video, or I can film something in 20 minutes, edit it for 20 minutes, but if it's current and people think I'm an authority, that succeeds. And that kind of thing, it's like a niche thing maybe we have in our spaces, but it's very hard to reconcile with that. How much sometimes it isn't about, like, I guess, momentary effort. Maybe it's reflective of like a long-term effort you've made pouring yourself into some game, for better or for worse. But I don't know, have you experienced that ever on like you do a project and then it like doesn't compete with like people just want to know like the spicy JGigs reaction to a drama or something?
Yeah, all the time. That's one of the harder things for me to deal with as a content creator. There's content that I have talked myself out of making because it's too high effort for what I think it'll do performance wise, which is probably sounds so counterintuitive. Because if you could just continue to put in the high effort, put out the high effort content, it'll rise at the top. But yeah, I've had like DJRNG tracks I've put out that didn't perform well. Yeah. I've had skits that I spent over a week working on that didn't do well, and then I'll put out a video bitching about some specific thing in an update note and do 3 times the views. So yeah, it's in some ways it's frustrating, but in another way it's like it's also the positive about. You mentioned like what is it about Raid that's made me stick around and that these other games hasn't. It's that I'm fortunate enough to kind of be in this position with Raid where it doesn't really matter what I do. Sometimes I feel motivated to do the high effort stuff, and I'll put out a slew of skits and RNG tracks, and that goes well. I can do conversational videos because people seem to like those. I can do reaction videos. I can do free to succeed. I can kind of do whatever I want in Raid. And I'm fortunate enough to be in that position where I have an audience that likes that type of stuff. And Raid also was like my first successful game that I made content for, or that I had success with, I should say. So it kind of became my main game, and that's just the way that it is in my head. I don't really think about quitting Raid like that, because Raid doesn't make me unhappy. I'm frustrated with Plarium, and I have my issues with Plarium, but playing the game I enjoy. It doesn't make me unhappy. So I've got no reason right now to think about moving on from it.
Yeah.
So
no, that makes sense.
It's just, yeah.
We might still go back to that, but I do want to, the main final thing I wanted to talk about, because we were heading into it, was, you know, you decide you're done with the game and then you move on to the next. So we talked about what makes things peter out for you, or for you to decide, oh, I'm done with this one, let's move on, kind of that negative ending. But now you're on like a new beginning, playing a new game. I know you're playing King Arthur, which you told me you were pretty excited about. So I'd like to hear, maybe you could speak to the audience about like what gets you really excited, because I know you see a lot of potential in this game, and that it's been like that in the past with other games. When you're picking up a new game, what are the things you're looking for? What are the things that you're connecting with, that are resonating with you, that gets you really excited? Like, oh, this is a new game, I like it. Oh, this is a new game, I'm gonna cover it and like dive into it.
Yeah, so I personally really appreciate games that try something different, that aren't just blatantly following the blueprint one-to-one. I of course follow the blueprint, but try some new stuff. Even if it doesn't work, I like to see some new stuff tried. I like attention to gameplay, so I like mechanics that I haven't seen before. I like lots of mechanics, and I love usability. I think one of the things I appreciate the most is that King Arthur, as an example, the uncommons are so important. Some of them are so useful in some of the dungeons. Some of them do very simple things, but they're very effective things. And so far, I haven't looked at an uncommon that I don't think I can build and use.
Really?
I love that. Yeah, I appreciate that so much. That matters so much to me.
In that game, an uncommon's like a base 2-star.
Yeah, so wow. It's pretty much the same. In this game, it's common, uncommon, rare, legendary, so there's no epic. So there could be an argument to make that rares are like epics in Raid and uncommons are like rares. Yeah. But regardless, I appreciate it. And there might even be some commons that are usable, but I appreciate that a lot. And then there's a fine line you got to try to toe. It needs to be difficult enough to be interesting, but not so difficult that you feel like you have to spend money, because I don't like people feeling strong-armed and spending money either. So those are the types of things that'll get me excited. I'm very excited about King Arthur because it seems to be a game that it seems to be a genuine effort to make a really good game. So now I'm in that phase of, all right, well, let's give it 6 months or so and see what happens when the money starts rolling in. But I'm optimistic and hopeful that they don't lose their mind and just start dropping legendaries every couple of weeks. Because, man, I like this one a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, because it's like, by a mile, I've talked about this in a million pieces of content and videos and streams and whatever, but like my biggest complaint about Watch of Realms is it's all legendaries. But it's also, they never deceived us. It's always been all legendaries.
Yeah.
Like the whole time I've been playing, they've released like 6 or 8 epics. That's in like well over a year, like 15 months. I think a lot of, it goes both ways with developer and players. I think a lot of, on both sides, people lose sight of the fact that from a player perspective, why do they keep pushing legendaries? It's like, because that's literally the genre. That's how you keep it fresh when you have banner-based content. That's how you make money. But I do think the developers lose sight of the fact that putting out more accessible heroes, as long as they're worse, they can still be really usable. As long as they're worse, maybe you lose 2% of people that are like, oh, I'm going to be super sweaty free to play. The vast majority just are happy to have the diversity, and it's going to make a smoother experience when people start out. I really would love to see a study, but I guess this gacha mobile gaming thing, even though it's been around for a dozen years or whatever, it's still not big enough and hasn't lasted long enough for this to happen. I'd be shocked if a game added, more to the bottom base of the pyramid of rarity, if they would see anything reflected in their bottom line. I'd be shocked. I think it would lead to more player retention, and then people would be more comfortable spending money on the game, quite frankly.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing that so many of them seem to miss, is that I know I'm like this, and I know so many other people like this that are so happy to spend money if they don't feel like they're trying to be forced to. Once you start strong-arming me into spending money, I'll probably stop playing. Like, I don't want to humor that, you know what I mean? Summoner's War has been consistent about adding champs of different rarities over the years, and
Do you
that's
still
another
play?
thing I think. I do. I'm always in and out. I don't play it every day, but I'm always. I don't think I'll ever. That's like my first love. You know what I mean? I'll never forget Summoner's War. It's like every problem in the game can be solved in a very approachable way, and it only gets easier and faster as you get legendaries, right?
Yeah.
That seems like such an easy, obvious thing to me. Make your problem solvable for everybody in good faith. And then gate the speed teams behind legendaries. Gate alleviation of the pressure of completing these tasks behind legendaries, but don't abandon the core of the game.
Yeah.
Don't make the gameplay so uninteresting where it's like, here's a new legendary that solves this problem. You know what I mean? Raid, I don't think has ever shaken up the meta with a buff or a nerf. There's a couple champs that have come to relevancy, but most of the time when it's time to shift the meta in Arena, they just add new broken void legendaries to shift the meta, and then it's about them for a while. And when Terrace and Marichka are done, they'll add some more broken legendaries, and they'll be the ones that shift the meta. Instead of every few months dropping a balance patch that just mixes the game up. Don't ruin anybody's dungeon teams, but keep Arena interesting. There's just a lot of stuff that a lot of these developers seem to miss from a quality standpoint, and it's hard to expect them to listen to any critique because whatever they're doing must be making them money. So there's no reason to listen to me telling you this is how you make it better, because I don't think a lot of them care about making it better. They care about making more money.
Yeah.
And Plarium's tactics clearly make them more money than what they think they would make if they were doing everything in a way that would make everybody, more people happier and bring more quality. So I guess it's kind of a lose-lose.
It's quite a tough sell if you're like, hey, you could do this and it would make the game better, so then people would be more enthusiastic, so you would make more money. And then their response would be like, or we could keep doing what we're doing and we're making money.
Right.
You know, so it's like, do I want to like jump on your thought exercise, or do I want to just like keep printing money?
Yeah. I would love to make a game someday and test all of my theories about player relations and all of that, but
I think it'd be pretty cool. I really wonder if like the guys that are making the Godforge game, like Hell Hades and Susie and Chosen and everybody, if they're gonna, I would love to know if like they'll keep doing their podcasts and talking about what the experience is like once it starts and once money starts happening, assuming the game is successful in some right. And then I would love to know if they will keep on that, or then maybe at the end there's like a retrospective, because like I feel like the sell of that game, which is exciting, and I think it's very admirable what they're doing, but it's like, this is a game by the players. But like, how quickly do you become not the players, or do you stay true to like the little kid in your heart, or is it like, I'm a developer now, baby, you know?
If you make $50 million in 6 months.
Next thing you know, it says 400% off, and it's now, instead of $320, it's whatever, $80. Like, wow, what a discount. It's crazy. Yeah. All that for 2 legendary summons? That's amazing. Yeah. All right, I think we basically hit all the main things I wanted to talk about, unless you have any final thoughts. I mean, I guess maybe very quickly, I know Plarium, because you said Raid is your main game. I saw Mad Capper posted a video last night that I watched. They just got sold. You think that's like a good sell, or is that like they're going to need more cash, or TBD, or what do you think of something like that?
I don't really know. I have to look a little more into it. It could go either way. It could be a good thing. We could find out all this time Plarium has not been the bad guy. We could find out that Aristocrat's been the bad guy and Plarium was just at their mercy. So it'll depend, I guess, on who this new company that owns Plarium is and what their goals are. And I mean, I think it's definitely a good thing to not have a gambling company own our game developer.
Is the new company like actually a game company?
I think so. I just know it's called MTG. Like I said, I got to actually read some articles and learn about it, but they can't be worse than Aristocrat. They can't be, right? Online
that was like
company?
that was like a casino holding company that owned the developer previously, right?
Right. Yeah. So
like they literally make slot machines. That's like what they do.
And it just manifested so obviously. You can tell so obviously who owned Plarium through that. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I might have to issue some apologies. Maybe this hasn't been Plarium's fault all this time.
It'd be pretty fun to do those, I'm sure. That'd be nice crow to eat.
The game just gets amazing in the next 4 months.
Yeah. Whoops.
Yeah, my bad, guys.
All right.
Well, board meeting 5 will have to be a little different.
You're gonna just be the most rosy channel. People are gonna think you're the ultimate shill now. All right. Well, that's all I got for you, man. Thank you so much. I know I said I didn't know if this would be like 5 minutes or 20 minutes. We made it to 30 minutes somehow.
GG.
Yeah, GG. No agenda, just general. Yeah, wanted to get your vibes, and they were good. I really think you were the right person to speak to this, having still playing Summoner's War all the way to brand new games like the King Arthur and stuff like that. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you bringing me on. It's always good to talk to you.
I will say, guys, if you like Final Fantasy, I've never played it, not once in my life, but I know it's many people's favorite series of games or one of their favorites. Gigs over here just started streaming. Is it every day you're streaming?
I'm doing every weekday, yeah, Monday through Friday.
So Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, you're streaming every Final Fantasy game, seeing how long that takes. But you started right now with, like, I'm assuming it's from the 80s or something, the first game?
Yeah, so last week I beat the first one.
You beat
I guess
it,
Monday
okay.
I beat the first one, and we're on the second one now. Yeah, the first one came out, I think, in 86, which is when I was born.
Crazy.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I tuned in for one of the streams. I was like, wow, these graphics are exactly like every other game from this era. That's amazing.
Yeah, there was definitely an art style for the time.
Yeah. It's great, though. So, guys, check out JGigs. Certainly, if you play Raid Shadow Legends or if you want to play King Arthur, you can check out JGigs, the Raid channel, or Gigs Mobile Gaming, the other channel, or just check him out on Twitch and hang out. It's always a good time. You can check out the... oh, my God, I forgot the name of the game. Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy. Not your first fantasy, the final one. Guys, thank you so much. I've been Fastidious. This has been JGigs. We'll see you real soon. Share it with your mother. Goodbye.
Fastidious.
I was going to say Final Destination, and I was like, now I'm just going to the things I like, baby. Who's going to fall off a roller coaster today?
He's playing all the Final Destination games.
All of them. He's dying like 25 times. It's crazy.